Valarie Hurst Show as Dr. Tyra Hodge shares her harrowing story. Welcome to the Valarie Hurst Show. Thank you for joining us today. My guest is Dr. Tyra Hodge, and she has a riveting, inspiring, and harrowing story. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm very excited.
Absolutely. So your story started off at a very young age that just all of a sudden had a twist to it. You were kidnapped in the middle of the night?
Yes, I remember being in my crib. I was 3 years old. In the middle of the night, I remember two people coming into our house. For some reason, my crib was placed to the back of the house. And so I remember two people coming in the back door and taking me out of my crib and leaving. And so, 3 years old is kind of old to be in a crib, but the house was a small house. And so that's just the way it was.
Right.
And so as we're driving, I tell the people, because I'm not sure what's going on. I had never really heard about kidnapping before. And I'm asking them, where's my mom?
Right.
And the man that was driving said, this is your mom. And so at that moment, I found out that my mom wasn't my mom. It was my aunt that had been raising me. And my biological mom decided that she wanted to get me back. And so they took me in the middle of the night.
Okay. I mean, I can imagine as a 3-year-old, that was probably a little traumatic for you.
It was confusing, very confusing.
And so what happened after that?
Well, I lived with my parent, my stepdad, and my mom in Virginia. Life seemed to be kind of normal. I would go back to my aunt's, for summers and stuff like that. My stepdad had an alcohol problem, and so that kind of led to him getting drunk and just being kind of physical as far as, breaking up things in the house, just angry temper tantrums. I call them, even when adults do them, temper tantrums.
Right.
And so that was, that kind of became a normal. We never knew how on a Friday when he got paid how he was going to come home, or if he was going to come home one time, or, what was going to happen.
So you're now living as a child with your biological mother
Yes.
and your stepfather.
Yes.
But you were being raised by your aunt up
Yes.
until what age?
So
around
about
the
three. About
Okay.
3.
Okay. And then here you are now living with your biological mother and your stepfather, and you're in this atmosphere of just this abuse going on.
Yes. And so the thing about abuse is when you're living in it and that's all you know, that just kind of becomes the normal. And so although sometimes we had moments of fear, it was normal. And so, because we, have a Monday through Thursday would be okay, and on Friday we never knew how, Dad was going to come home.
Right. I remember you sharing in your book, there was a time where your stepfather had gotten so abusive, and he had you by the throat.
Yes.
And up against the wall with a knife to your throat.
Right. I don't remember what was going on between him and my mom, but my mother had said that she had enough, she was going to leave. And so to bully her, to scare her into staying, he took me by the throat and held me up next to the door and said that he'd slit my throat if she left. And of course, she stayed. And so we had... there was only one period like that, and I remember one time he was angry and kicked me, and so it was this, this is kind of what I lived with as a child, and I remember my dad doing drugs, and there were so many good things about him, but drugs, when alcohol and drugs come into play, people sometimes are not their real selves, and just ugliness can come out. So I do, so I don't want to diminish that he was good to me and took care of us. And so, but there was drugs involved. And I do remember, one night when he and I had stayed up late one night, just kind of hanging out, and he'd play with me, and I something was wrong with him, and I didn't know, and he had kind of leaned back, and his eyes had kind of rolled back, and at first I thought he was playing with me, and he wasn't playing with me, and what we had found out later, he was having an aneurysm, and he had died that morning. So there was one night when my dad had stayed up with me all night, kind of playing with me, and he was drinking, but he was in a good mood. He had sat back on the couch, and he had laid back, and his eyes began to roll back in his head. And I wasn't sure at first if he was playing or not, and I kind of shook him, Daddy, and I realized that something was wrong. And so I went to the bedroom to get my mother up and to breathe, something's wrong with Dad, something's wrong with Dad. And so she came into the living room, and he was still unresponsive, and she called the hospital, and they sent an ambulance, and by the time they got there, he was dead. And so I can't say that I've really talked about that hardly ever, but that's what happened. And so that kind of left a mark to where, there was always been this fear to where if I really loved somebody, and I loved him, yes, he had some issues and some anger issues, and I think it was mixed with the alcohol and everything, but, he was my dad.
Right.
So.
Right. Understandably so. You've obviously have, just since a young age, have gone through just so much trauma, all the way up to your young adult years. And so at this point in your life, as a young child still, you're at what age at this point when you lost your dad?
I was
Your
8 years
stepdad?
old.
8 years old. So what happened at this time in your life? What kind of turn did you and your family make? What happened next? Was your mom now this single mom just trying to make ends meet?
She was. My mom stayed single. I watched her try to put some pieces together for her life. She, went to college and got an associate's degree and used that to become a police officer. But, I never, really seen my mom real happy. And so, outside of that, there was school, and being where we were in Virginia, it was different, and I really didn't understand about racism, even though I encountered some growing up.
Okay. There was a point in the book where you were talking about, I think maybe when you were staying with your aunt, and you had some family members that tried to take advantage of you.
Yes, I had family members that would often touch me and rub up against me, and so I knew that wasn't right. And so I did try, when you're young, sometimes you don't know how to exactly word things. And so when I did try to report it, I was made fun of by those family members for reporting it. So after that, I just kind of kept it quiet.
So would you say that just with the different things that you've been through growing up, that you started feeling like you didn't have a voice?
I absolutely felt like I didn't have a voice.
I want to talk a little bit more. Let's back up a bit to your stepfather. And when you were younger, and when he was still alive, and he would take you when he ran errands.
Yes.
And there was a few places he took you to, and then one place that really wasn't a place to be taking a child.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little
I
bit?
remember one day we were supposed to be running errands, and so he decided to take me to a go-go bar. What I found interesting is that everybody knew him. And so the go-go bar is like a strip club.
Right.
And so I guess, I don't know, because I wore go-go boots back then. And so we had gone there and, watched a couple of dances and just kind of hung out. And so got some attention from the girls.
At what age were you at this point?
Well, he died when I was 8, so I was probably about 6 or 7 maybe.
Do you remember what you were thinking at that point? Just sitting there and in that environment as a child?
I was thinking, I don't think Mom would like us here.
Yeah, I'm sure she wouldn't approve, huh?
No, I know, and actually I never told her.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I guess he knew, And what's funny is that I don't remember him ever telling me, don't tell Mom. I just didn't.
Okay.
So I don't know what that was all about.
Huh.
So.
Well, there was something you said in your book that really got my attention. You said, still, after seeing what my mother had gone through, I had unconsciously absorbed and internalized the pattern that abusive relationships tended to have. It's
Right.
powerful. I mean, for you to acknowledge that and recognize that and see how this pattern that was in your life.
Right. And so, I had been in a couple of relationships that were abusive. And I saw how my mom always stayed. But you would think that we would learn something through seeing that. But when something becomes your normal, you tend to get uncomfortable when something is out of the normal, even though it may be good for you. Right. And I kind of fell into that pattern to where, I date men that cheat. And that's abusive. That's really abusive. And I would date men that had a temper. Or drugs. And so
that's what that's all you knew.
That's what I knew.
And so it did not look different to you.
No.
It was normal.
It was normal.
So in your younger adult years, what's happening at this point in your life?
Okay, so there's a whole bunch going on. Well, my young adult years, I spent some time at a Bible college right after high school. And it was just a short-term college just to kind of get you ready for the world and everything. But after that, what happens to a lot of young people, like I said, I didn't think I was smart. That continued. And so I struggled through high school. I made it through high school. And so now I'm out in the world and I have to take care of myself. And there's not enough money working at the corner store to take care of yourself. I didn't have a whole bunch of friends. And so a lot of, young people, they'll have roommates and everything. So I didn't have any of that. And so I was expected to take care of yourself like any normal person would. And so I did wait tables, and I did well at waiting tables, but there still came times when there just wasn't enough money. And so one year I did have a set of friends, and I hope I'm not going too fast in the story, but I did have a set of friends that I did live with, and so we were coming up short for the money, and my friend suggested, hey, let's go work at a club.
Right.
I know a couple of clubs, we can make a lot of money. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. She's like, come on, just go with me. And so we went and we had an interview. She didn't get the job and I did. So now I was stuck with the decision, can I try this out and hopefully make enough money? And so I kind of went with it.
I remember reading where you said, I always felt like I was second best, or I was always, kind of like this afterthought.
Yes. yes. I think a lot of women have issues with feeling enough sometimes, feeling like you don't matter, or always coming second to something else.
Right.
And so growing up, I felt like I always came second to other things. I was never, never quite loved enough, and the guys I dated, I could never be first, and I just always wanted to be 1st in somebody's life. And so,
Could you trace back to when you were younger why you felt that way later in life? Could you trace it back to your childhood years?
maybe because, I was different than my brothers and sisters. My biological father, I didn't know who he was. And that, in fact, I did have one, until later. I think I met him when I was 14. And after that, outside of some letters or whatever, I didn't know him. And so and then with my stepdad dying, there wasn't a father there, and my friends had fathers. And so in that aspect, and I know that's a common theme now, but it still leaves a scar, on a child. And, I say that, not having father, with our nation, about 1 in 4, 1 in 3, or children are raised in single parent homes. Although not having a father does leave an effect, I also have found that, not that I've done the research or anything, but just in my observation of working with these children, the ones that don't have mothers are often a lot more of a handful.
They are more of a handful.
Actually.
Okay.
Which is interesting, because all we hear about is the fathers, but ones that don't have mothers are usually a little bit more extreme.
So unfortunate, a little bit later, moving forward a little bit more, there was a time where you attempted suicide.
I did. And that was kind of based around feeling alone. I had been in trouble with the law twice. One time it was a mistaken identity, and that kind of pulled from my life. The other time I was absolutely guilty. I kind of felt like I got a heavier charge than what I should have. But at this point in my life, I had lost everything. I had lost my cars because I was doing drugs. And actually, I don't want to skip ahead of your questions, but I had been working in the clubs.
Right.
And remember how I said that I hadn't really gone across the line of doing cocaine products. I was actually invited to go to a party, and I did. Went to this party thinking it was a party, and it was really a setup for a man to rape me. So after that, I was shattered, and that actual night I did cocaine for the first time. And after that, I had a problem.
Okay. So it's at that point, the trauma from that, the rape. I remember you saying you got there and didn't quite look.
It didn't look right,
inviting.
but I still, instead of, listening to that inner voice to leave, I went ahead, and so it was just a setup, and actually I'm not sure what all his plans were for me, because he had locked me inside the house, and so I honestly feel that I was set up to be human trafficked. And so, but I was able to get out, but just, a lot of thinking, even through all the trauma, I was able to get out of the house. And so, but that left me, and so if it wasn't bad enough to be raped, the man had my number, because I didn't know, just talking to him, I had given him my number. After that, he stalked me for almost a year.
A year?
Not just with phone calls. I was being followed to and from work just followed around the city, and the phone calls were just crazy. I mean, my phone would ring for hours and hours. I don't know why I didn't think about just changing my phone number, but
Right.
it would have been smart, but I didn't think about it. I can't say, oh, it's
An
smart.
entire year, though, of stalking.
Pretty much.
And so from the time of the rape, it was then when the cocaine started.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it became a habit. And
Right, and so even through that phase, I wasn't ever actually thinking clearly, because I had just kept myself. If I wasn't doing cocaine, then I was drinking, and so it became a habit and
a lifestyle.
lifestyle.
It became a lifestyle.
They're not into volume, they're into quality. And that's what really sold us on making that selection. That's what we found throughout the entire, process.
Having been in the pool industry for over 30 years in a major market, we have the big town experience, but the small town integrity.
You've earned your place in the sun with the Minion Pool Group.
Hi, I'm Kim Bowling with the Mary and Frankie team at Keller Williams. I want to share with you today my listing in Teeswood. Teeswood is a prestigious gated community in the beautiful area of Conroe. Located near our 22,000-acre Lake Conroe, minutes to I-45, hospitals, shopping, and just 20 minutes to the Woodlands. Teeswood has very exquisite homes with curb appeal and elegance built within a backdrop of natural streams, private lakes, rolling hills, and mature pine trees. Featured today is 10286 Paradise Valley, a stunning custom home on 1.27 private wooded acres. This is a 4 to 5 bedroom home, study, game room, and 5.5 baths. Circle driveway with extended, widened driveway along the side of the home by the 3-car garage for additional parking. The grand covered patio has plenty of space for a custom pool, full outdoor California kitchen. Large back entertaining area has a wood ceiling over the slate patio along the back of the home. If you're thinking about Teeswood, talk to Kim. Teeswood listings can be viewed online. To see more high-quality photos, property details, and pricing, go to talktokim.com. To set your private showing for any Teeswood property, call me direct. I would love to show you around.
Now you're in this place of just really struggling, and you were still leading this lifestyle of just being drawn to the club still, and the drugs were still involved in your life. And it seemed like you had reached a point where you just couldn't take anymore.
I had definitely hit rock bottom. Things had gotten so to where I really couldn't even afford to go to clubs anymore to hang out, much less to work in them. It was just a vicious cycle of trying to get money to do drugs. There was a guy that I liked, and because of my lifestyle, his friends didn't think I was a good influence, and I probably wasn't. And so he had broken up with me. My car had just been repossessed due to non-payment, but it was actually, I had let somebody use it and they never brought it back, and 5 months later when I got it back, it had already been late, so my car was taken. And so I remember coming home this day just really distraught, knowing that my life wasn't going anywhere. I knew that I didn't need to be working in clubs anymore, and the drugs, I was tired of it. I was tired of being sick and tired. I was tired of being broke. At this point, I was about to lose the apartment. And I just didn't want to do it. Everything hurt so much. Everything hurt, and I just wanted it to stop. I wanted the pain to stop, and I didn't want to hurt anymore. And I felt so unloved and unlovely about this time. And so I just remember just saying a little prayer, and I took, let's say, about 50 pills and drank a 12-pack of Bud Light. And I just remember saying, God, if there's no reason for me to be on this earth, just let me die. Just let me die. I mean, I felt like I was a waste of space. And I was tired of hurting, and I wanted it to stop. Well, I took the pills and I drank all the alcohol. And I had people at my apartment that day, and I didn't tell them what I was doing. I had locked myself in the bathroom, got in the bathtub, filled up the tub with water, got in there taking the pills, finished all the Bud Light. And I guess maybe about a couple of days later, I remember almost having like this, and I don't know if I was or not, because I'm sure I was really messed up on the pills and, and the alcohol. I felt like I remember having almost an out-of-body experience. I don't know if that's true or not, but I just remember that final prayer at that moment. It's like, if there's no reason for me to live, just let me die. I was done, I was done hurting. And so what had happened is that my friends went to check on me, and they found me in the tub under the water, I think is what they said. They had carried me out of the bathtub and put me in the bed. Well, everybody was doing drugs. And so sometimes what will happen if somebody ODs or something, you get left in strange places. Well, they didn't, my friend did call disease control to see what to do. And so, of course, I told them to call, 911, but nobody was calling 911. So, no, this is what they tell me.
This is what they told you.
Yes,
Okay.
I was not coherent. I was out
Okay.
for 2 days.
Okay.
And so, but a couple of the friends stayed around just to see whether I was going to live or die, but they refused to call 911. And so those are good friends. So, not good friends.
Right.
So,
definitely
but they stuck around to see whether I was going to live or die. And so a couple of days later, they say I walked into the living room. I was stark naked, and just said, "Y'all hold it down." And everybody started cheering because that was there. And so, because I had lived. And so it was just a couple of days later, I found out that I was pregnant. And God had given me something to live for.
Wow. Definitely something worth living for. Well, Tyra, thank you so much for being on the show. This is part 1 of Dr. Tyra Hodge's story. And join us next time. We are going to continue with part 2 of her story. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.